Hi students, good morning. In process costing equivalent production, we are going to prepare the fifth type, that is when there is opening and closing work in progress with the process loss. If they given opening and closing work in progress with the process loss, how can you find out equivalent production? Okay, through FIFO method only we can find out the equivalent production if they given the opening work in progress and the closing work in progress with the process loss. Okay, so let's take the illustration sum number 26. Calculate equivalent production for the process 1 during October 2010 from the information furnished below. Opening stock 3000 unit, percentage of a completion, material 75%, labor 50%, overhead 50%, number of units introduced into the process 50 units, and units scrapped and considered as a normal, which means a normal loss is given here. Closing work in progress is given here 5000 units. Okay, percentage of completion for the closing stock is material 80%, labor 60%, overhead 60%. Listen, in opening stock 3000 unit, they have given the completion work done percentage gives for material, labor and overhead, and closing work in progress they have given. For that they have given the degrees of completion percentage for material, labor and overhead. With that we are going to what they ask us to prepare. We need to prepare the equivalent production if they given opening and closing work in progress with the normal loss. Okay, so what method we are going to use here? We are going to use the method is FIFO method. Okay, so what is the format? We are going to enter the heading, that is statement of equivalent production. It has 3 columns. What are the input column, output column and equivalent of production? In equivalent of production is subdivided into 3 columns, that is material, labor and overhead. In these 3 elements is subdivided into 2 columns, that is percentage and the units. Okay, so accordingly in input and output column we have the 2 columns subdivided into 2 columns, that is particular in unit on both columns. Okay, let's prepare the sum. Okay, so what is the first entry you are going to enter in that statement of equivalent production? Always we are going to enter in input column. Okay, so how much input they introduce? Before that, if they given the opening work in progress, you always started with the opening work in progress. So opening stock is 3000 unit entered in input column, and how much input they introduced? They introduced input is 50,000 rupees. Let's find out the total for the input column, that is 50,000 plus 3,000, you got the total is 53,000 rupees. Let's come to output column. Okay, in output column they have given the normal loss. Okay, so the normal loss is 4,000 units. The normal loss will not shown in the equivalent production. Okay, the normal loss is to be assigned in the 0 in the equivalent production. So you are going to put nil or hyphen in the equivalent production. So the normal loss unit will not appear in the equivalent production, but it shows on output column. So the normal loss 4,000 unit enter in the output column. Okay, let's come to find out fresh input unit. Listen, what is the opening? We have the small calculation. We have the small working notes here to prepare the fresh input unit. How can you find out the fresh units introduced during the month? Okay, so listen, what is the opening work in progress? Opening work in progress is 3,000 units. How much input introduced? 50,000 rupees. After units after added 53,000 units. The total input is 53 units. Okay, 53,000 units. Then we have to subtract the normal loss unit 4,000. After subtracted you got 49,000 rupees units. Then that 49,000 units will be subtracted with the closing work in progress 5,000 units. After subtracted you got 44,000 units. That 44,000 units will be subtracted from the opening working progress. What is the opening working progress unit? 4,000 units. After subtracted, you got 41,000 units. That is called fresh unit introduced during the month, and it will be completed during the month. Okay, listen, that fresh unit is started during the month, and that unit will be output will come between the month. Okay, that progress will completed in the same month. That a fresh unit introduced and that work will completed in the same month. The output will completed the same month. So how can we have the separate working note for the to find out the fresh unit complete and transfer to the next process? How can you find out how much fresh unit they introduced during the month? We have the working progress, opening working progress subtracted from the added with the input. We have the total. With the total, we subtracted the normal loss. After subtracted, we got 49,000 units. It will be subtracted from the closing working progress, and the find out that value will be subtracted from the opening working progress. We got the fresh unit. That unit will be completed and transferred to the next process. The same during the month. Okay, so how much fresh unit are introduced and completed and transferred to the next month, next process in the same month? That is 41,000 rupees. How that 41,000 rupees will come? We have the working note. Okay, so that 41,000 unit introduced during the month, and that units will be completed in the same month, and it will be transferred to the next process in the same month. So how can you calculate it? It has 100% work done in that three elements. Okay, because that fresh unit is started and completed and transferred to the next process. So that 41,000 rupees is completed work done in the material and work done in the elements of labor and work done in the overhead also. So it has 100% work done. Okay, for fresh unit completed and transferred to the next process. Then come to opening working progress. How much unit they they have given in the question for opening working progress? That is a 3,000 units. How can you calculate it for these three elements for the find out the equivalent production for working opening working progress? Listen, it's very simple. How much degrees of completion they have given for these three elements for the opening working progress? For material they have given 75%, right? For material 75%, and labor they have given 50%. Okay, so listen, we didn't take that 70%, 75% calculated with that 3,000 units, because it is the remaining percentage of completion degrees of completion only. The balancing degrees of completion only we have to calculate it with opening working progress unit. Okay, so 75 subtracted from the 100%, you will get 25%, and 50 subtracted from the 100%, you will get 50% for labor and overhead 50%. Okay, so the remaining balancing degrees of completion only we need to calculate it with the always work in progress, opening working progress. Got it? So that is called FIFO method. Got it? So the remaining degrees of completion for material is 25%, multiplied with 3,000 units, you will get 750 units. Okay, so 50% remaining balance degrees of completion, that means the current periods degrees of completion only we calculated with the opening working progress. For you got 3,000 into 50%, 1,500 for both labor and overhead. Okay, let's come to closing work in progress. It's a very simple closing work in progress. So how much unit they have given? 5,000 units. It will be calculated what they given in the question, that the degrees of completion, that work done percentage only will be calculated for material, labor and overhead. So they have given 80% for material, multiplied with 5,000, you got 4,000 units for material, and for 60% you got multiplied with 5,000, you got 3,000 units for labor and overheads. Now find out the total. The input total is 53,000, output total after added 4,000, 41,000 plus 3,000 plus 5,000. You got 53,000 rupees. Material total is after added 45,700. Labor total is after added 45,500, 45,500 for labor and overhead. So in FIFO method, we can easily prepare the equivalent productions if they given opening and closing work in progress. Okay, so normal loss will not assign in the equivalent production. It will be show only in output, and opening work in progress always the remaining what they given in the question, the completion degree, need not take that completion degree for each element. We will subtract that completion degree from the 100%, the remaining percentage, that means the work done only you are going to enter in opening work in progress, that is called FIFO method, first in first out. Okay, then closing work in progress, what they given in the question, that degrees of completion for the current accounting period, it will be calculated with 5,000 into 80%, and rest of the percentage we need to calculate it accordingly, find out the total. That's all. Okay, do you have any doubt? Please comment it in the comment box. Thank you.